Welcome to the start of a massive grand finale happening with this Aries solar eclipse. Okay, more than ever, I'm going to be doing some massive astro nerding out that you are not going to want to miss because this eclipse traces back to a lot of different other things going on. So you want to watch the beginning of this video. Definitely want to watch the beginning of this one, okay? This is a big deal. If you go skipping to your sign, you're only getting like a minute or two of your horoscope, so make sure you are watching the beginning of this one. And if you're new here, my name is Tony Michelle. Welcome to Aries season, the land of the free, the home of the brave. I have a lot to say about this Aries solar eclipse, and we're going to unpack it majorly in this video, and so you're going to want to be following along. I really feel like this particular eclipse in Aries is like a grand finale, like it's an ending and a beginning, like all in one, you know, but there's a lot of other things that are going on that are involved. We have a lot of fire and water, so this isn't going to be like a typical Aries eclipse for many different reasons, and I will explain why. But this eclipse is kind of almost like a portal, and I don't use that word a lot, and I don't use that word lightly. It is in so many different ways because of the events going on right after this eclipse. I think this is a moment of closure. And I don't know why I got kind of like the vision when I was taking notes for this eclipse of like how psychics and people that have, you know, near-death experiences and all of that talk about how when they have those experiences, they go through like a life review kind of thing. And I don't know why, but that was coming to me when I was taking notes about this eclipse. This eclipse feels like a review before a period of forward momentum. Okay. And it's like we are reviewing something. We are reviewing something from the past. We are releasing a lot, ending a lot, cutting a lot of ties, cutting a lot of cords, but also there's a massive clearing that is happening. And for a clearing to happen, we have to end things. We have to cut cords. We have to, you know, cut some ropes, you know, and make space, right? We have to get rid of the old to make way for the new. And that, I think, more than anything is what this Aries eclipse is symbolizing. This is a partial eclipse happening on March 29th, 2025, this coming Saturday for me. So let's go ahead and get into all of the deets about this Aries solar eclipse. As we can see here, we have a solar eclipse happening in the sign of Aries, right? How do I know this is a solar eclipse? And it is a partial solar eclipse, but the node, even though it's here in Pisces, is not far away by degree. I mean, it is about, 13, 14 degrees, but it is still nonetheless considered an eclipse. So that's why I'm calling it a partial eclipse. But nonetheless, it is still very powerful. It's in a fire sign, right? Fire deals with our instinct, our drive, our physicality. It is ruled by the planet. Aries is ruled by the planet of Mars, right? These are the intense situations that we deal through, but also our sense of independence, bravery, our sense of inspiration, the spark that we get to move forward, to drive forward, and to pioneer new paths in our lives, right? And that's very much Aries energy. It's the self-starter. It is the spark, the match that lights the way, right? It doesn't really think about doing, it just does, okay? And considers the consequences later, okay? So that's very much Aries energy, and that is why this is considered to be a solar eclipse in the sign of Aries, okay? Now, what's really interesting about this solar eclipse, it is coming 2 weeks after we had an eclipse, a lunar eclipse in the sign of Virgo, okay? Which was very much about perfectionism, critique, judgment, clearing out the old, and, one of the big Virgo words is improvement. And so I really think that with this Aries energy coming very much after the eclipse in Virgo, this eclipse cycle has been very much about cleaning things out, rearranging things, focusing on our routines and the physical things that we can do in our lives to actually create change. Okay, it's been about cleaning up our lives and improving ourselves, but also not falling into perfectionism and judgment and criticism. Well, this Aries solar eclipse, this next solar eclipse in Aries is very much about realigning with the main character energy in our lives, realigning with our badassery, realigning with our conviction, realigning with remembering who we are, our authentic selves, right? Aries as a sign is very much about the individuality, the self, independence, right? And so the way that I'm kind of looking at this eclipse cycle is character development. Character development, right? Cleaning out the old so we can make space for the new in order to regain our confidence, in order to reclaim our sense of fire within, to no longer just be the passenger in our lives, in the passenger seat of our lives, but to get back into the driver's seat. To be on the hero's journey and not be so bogged down by the past with all of these Pisces transits, right? to not be so weighed down by the past where we're all in doom and gloom and suffering and nostalgia and, wishing it was like how it was before and all of that, right? So I really view this in a lot of ways, this Aries eclipse, as an identity upgrade. Okay, an identity upgrade. Where have you not been the main character in your life? Where have, you realized, like the other day I was driving in my car, and I've been a little bit stuck in my life on and off for like the last year or so now, right? And I was driving in my car the other day, and I'm not like miserable or anything. I did go through a period where I was miserable, but I'm okay now, but I'm not like thriving, in my life, right? So I was in my car the other day listening to music for the first time in a while. I haven't listened to music in a long time after all the stuff happened last year with like all the famous people and Diddy and all of that. It really sent me through a massive kind of deconstruction of my brain and my perception of the world and all of that. And I really just didn't even want to listen to music anymore. And I've been in this phase where it's like music just did not do the same things for me anymore. A lot of the things I used to like have not really been the same. Right? And so it's really felt like things are different now. And I remember I was sitting in my car the other day and I turned on songs that I used to love and they just didn't hit the same way, and I just couldn't get into it the same. It didn't give me that same feeling. And I just had this like really eerie, uncertain, but like, I don't know, it wasn't like too eerie. It was kind of subtle, but it was just this feeling of like everything feels like it is being prepared to be brand new in some way. I've almost felt disconnected to who I used to be. And even though I've missed who I used to be and have almost wanted to get back to something from the past, again, this Pisces energy, but I'm also not that person now. And so it's like, well, who are you now? Right? Who are we now? And I think that we're stepping into this kind of portal of the new in a lot of ways with this Aries energy, while also still cleaning out the old. So it's like in somewhere in our lives, or maybe in multiple places in our lives, we've been in this in-between space, this in-between with this Aries energy of trying to move forward and start the new versus also dealing with the present, that in our present reality is really a past reality, right? We've done the things to get to our present reality in the past. So because every moment is constantly going by, what we see in our present reality is really the manifestation of our past reality, right? And so it's like we've still been trying to clean out the old and deal with the past, but we've also been in this in-between space. Like we've wanted to move forward, but we don't know what forward looks like. It feels chaotic and, uncertain and unknown. Like to me, it's just felt blank. Right? It's felt blank. It's like, I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what that looks like yet. So how can we move forward? To move forward, we have to feel aligned. We have to feel in sync. Our mind, body, soul, heart, emotions, all the things have to be aligned. And Aries, I think, is a lot about alignment. It's a lot about coming into sync, to move forward and to be the leader in our lives, to be the main character in our lives, to feel that like, forward momentum and that conviction and that desire and that just go for it energy. Like things have to be aligned internally. And that's where Pisces, I think, has been coming in a lot for us. It's like, okay, this isn't an alignment anymore. This isn't an alignment anymore. Oh, you're still holding on to that guilt. Oh, you're still holding on to that shame. Oh, you're still holding on to that thing. Oh, these physical things are still in your life. These old habits and patterns and, etc. are still in your life and not really doing much for you. Like it's time to move on. It's time to cut the cords of what is no longer aligned. And for some people, that could feel confusing. I know for me, there's been a lot of confusion around it. Pisces energy, right? There's been a lot of confusion around it of like, well, is it aligned? Is it not aligned? I don't know. Like inner conflicts that we have that we may be having for a while that we've been kind of lost on. Inner conflicts, Aries, right, have been coming up a lot. Okay, coming up a lot, not to mention the ruler of Pisces, good old Jupiter down here in in detriment in Gemini, the sign of contradiction, the sign of mental conflict, right? The sign of the ever-changing mind and the ever-changing thoughts and, duality and polarity. And, I like this, but I like this too. I kind of want to be on this side, but I also want to be on that side, And so it's like there's been a lot of confusion. There's been a lot of confusion, right? And so we've been in this in-between space, and I talked a lot about this the last few months and even the beginning of the year. And a lot of my prediction videos, I said that this year, the first like several months of the year, was going to be about this in-between space, you know, being kind of pulled between our past and our future, while also in the present, but not really having many clear steps on moving forward, but also feeling very called to work on things from our past or release things from our past. And it's just been a lot. So we've been in this in-between space, in this foggy gray area, and we haven't really known, like, who am I now? Not who was I before, right? But who am I now, and how do I move forward with my life? How do I move the fuck on? You know, and so that's what we've been really trying to figure out, okay? And so I think that with this partial Aries solar eclipse, I think that this is a major turning point. Okay, this is a major turning point because this eclipse, like I said, is wrapping up a series of eclipses and themes of the last year and a half, since about April of 2023. Okay, it's the final eclipse before the focus really starts to shift elsewhere. So whatever themes have really been playing out in your life since like mid 2023 likely have had something to do with confidence, independence, drive, personal truth, personal power, relationships versus self, right? Self versus other, like depending on self versus depending on other, trusting in yourself versus trusting in others, right? Independence versus, you know, collaboration. A lot of these things have been coming up very, very strongly for the last year and a half. Now, the other huge part of this, and why I don't think this is going to be the massive jolt forward yet, I do think that this eclipse is the portal and the start of it, and it's going to ripple out over the next several months and the next several weeks. We'll feel it more intensely as it builds, okay? But I do think that we can have a lot of like major downloads and major internal shifts around this eclipse, but I don't think it's going to be the full-on spring forward just yet, okay? And this is why. Because Mars, when we want to look at what something means in a sign, we want to look at to the ruler of that sign, right? Mars is the ruler of Aries, and Mars has been chilling in Cancer in its fall, like you know, it doesn't like to be here. Mars does not like to be here. So Mars has been chilling in Cancer in its fall, in the watery, emotional, ever-changing tides of Cancer, you know, the mood and the emotional security and emotional stability and the emotional world, right? Cancer is about protecting ourselves and our emotional bonds and our families and, you know, the things that we care about, right? It's a feminine sign, so it's more of a indirect passive energy rather than a charge forward, you know, kind of energy. So Mars has been here in Cancer, and Mars is really dampening the Aries spirit, okay? And a lot of these Aries transits that we've had, you know, instead of feeling that full light Aries energy of like, I'm free and I want to move forward, we've been feeling the tense Aries energy, the emotional stuff of the Aries energy, because Mars is in a water sign, right? Mars rules all these Aries transits we've been having. Mars is hosting all those transits, Venus retrograde, Mercury retrograde, right? And Mars is in the emotional sign of Cancer in fall. And this is why Mars is in fall in Cancer. So when we've been feeling, you know, certain situations come up or having certain situations come up, they've been emotional, they've been tense, they've been, you know, argumentative or confrontational, and sensitive and, you know, all of that. And so we can get triggered very easily, you know, and so that's part of it. The other part of this eclipse that we're going to talk more about here soon also is Mercury is going to retrograde back into Pisces the same day of this eclipse and then conjunct Neptune. Okay, so again, we have this massive other water theme happening here, massive water theme with all this stuff in Pisces. You know, Mercury moving back into Pisces and conjuncting Neptune on the same day, creating some, you know, potential great downloads and intuitive insights, but also confusion and potentially some mental fog or a lack of clarity, but also potentially a need for deep surrender to the intuitive side, the psychic side. Your intuition can be strong around this time, but your logic may not be. Okay, so we have this super strong Pisces stellium that is building here, and Pisces as a sign deals with endings and transcendence and healing and surrender and, disillusion and a shift into, kind of unknown or mysterious territory. It's about the mystery of the day-to-day life, the things that we can't see, right? And so this solar eclipse in Aries has a lot more going down than just this eclipse. So we have the Aries solar eclipse, final eclipse, okay, in this sign since July, around July 2023, or actually there may have been one in April. I think there was one in April 2023. It may have been a partial solar eclipse, but since sometime like mid 2023, okay? And, we've had these Aries eclipses over like the past few years, and these Aries eclipses have pushed people towards self-discovery, bold action, being more brave in our lives, independence, initiation, like actually moving forward and starting on the things that we want to start on. Right? And, since this solar eclipse marks, new beginnings, because all solar eclipses do, and it's in the first sign of the zodiac to even pile on top of that, right? It is technically a fresh start, but it's also the last eclipse of the cycle, right? And then we also have all this Pisces energy going on. And so, therefore, this eclipse is also, in a lot of ways, a culmination, or you can even say like a final kind of test, potentially or something, right? So I think this eclipse is really asking us, like, are we really ready to fully step into our personal power? Are we really ready to discover what we really want, even if it conflicts with our environment or other people or whatever, right? Even if it causes shakeups, confrontations, etc., right? Do we trust ourselves and believe in ourselves enough to take the lead in our lives, to move forward, right? And, what's the next chapter, right? Where have we not felt like we can truly just be our independent selves, right? Where have we not really known what that next chapter is because we haven't been trusting in ourselves in some way, or we've been looking too much towards the past, or we've been trying to balance everything out with other people or keep the peace around us or amongst other people in our lives, right? And so that's, I think, what a lot of this is really about. And then, back to Mars in Cancer, ruling this eclipse and being the ruler of this eclipse and being in its fall as well. It does not like being in Cancer, okay? And there's a reason that the ancients came up with this. This isn't just mumbo jumbo. They're like, you know what? I think Mars is going to be in fall in Cancer. No, they studied this shit and saw that Mars in Cancer doesn't bring fun things, right? The LA wildfires, right? The California wildfires or whatever. It does not go very great. Fiery planet of Mars does not go very great in Cancer, the feminine, emotional, intuitive sign ruled by the moon, right? Which in a lot of ancient astrology, in a lot of the ancient astrology world, the moon rules the body, right? The moon rules the things that we want to keep safe, precious, hidden, secure, like a baby in the womb, right? You wouldn't want, to be pregnant and to be in the middle of a war, right? That's not going to be, that's not going to feel super safe, right? Or have your newborn baby, sitting there nursing your newborn baby and, having a fire start in your house, that's not going to be, that's not going to feel super safe. So in a sign that's so much about safety, right? And emotion and security, and Mars is this warrior, this freaking warrior god archetype, right? It's not it doesn't like to be here, right? It's I don't know how to nurse the baby, I know how to fight, but I don't know how to sit here and take care of a crying baby, so anyway, so it doesn't mean that if you have Mars in Cancer or anything bad about you. I mean, we all can have planets that are in signs they don't like to be in. I have the worst possible combination of this because I have Venus and Jupiter conjunct, which is the best conjunction one can have, right? The two benefics together, how nice, right? In the sign that they both equally don't like, right? They are in the worst sign that they could both be in, right? Virgo, right? Venus is in her fall there since she's exalted in Pisces, the opposite sign of Virgo, and Jupiter is in its detriment there because it rules Pisces, the opposite sign of Virgo. So they both don't like this sign, and that's where I have them, okay? So I 100% know what that's like. I also have a Leo rising, okay? Sun, ruled by the sun chart ruler, sun in fall, okay? And Libra, Okay, so thank you very much. I understand fallen planets. It's not that you can't work with them or that they can't do good things. Okay, I feel like I need to say this because lately I've been getting some comments that like if I say something, people assume I like automatically mean something else, right? Or mean that there's not something else good that can come from it, right? Like, and I get that. I understand that anything bad could eventually be good and anything good could eventually be bad. I understand that, okay? So Mars in Cancer can be used for good things, okay? But just for the purposes of now, it is the truth as well that Mars is in fall in Cancer, okay? So anyways, so Mars being the fall in Cancer and being the ruler of this Aries, partial Aries solar eclipse that's happening, it means that Aries can't be its full go-getter, Viking pioneer, war god kind of self. It can't go after the things that it wants to go after as swiftly, as freely. It doesn't have the normal amount of strength and power and kick behind it. It doesn't have that normal fire behind it because it has water behind it, Cancer. Right? It has the emotional, intuitive mother behind it, right? Which, I mean, hey, Mars in Cancer can be like a mom that lifts the car, under adrenaline to like get her kids out, like whatever, right? So I do know that this can be used for good things, right? And again, I get that, right? But usually because of this, I don't think that most of us are experiencing these Aries transits in their normal way in some way, shape, or form. Because instead of like charging forward, we may have more hesitation. There may be some kind of emotional decision or emotional situation wrapped around, the situation preventing us from charging forward. Right? We may be less decisive and a bit more defensive, right? Less proactive and just more emotional about the things that we're trying to move forward on, right? We may be kind of wallowing in our triggers or easily triggered. Like, emotion, like water and fire is not not the best combination, right? It's why, these signs, like Cancer squares, Aries, because it's not a fun combination, right? It water puts out fire and fire can heat up water and make it boil, right? So this is how a lot of us, I think, are experiencing this, right? So people may feel, more triggered emotionally rather than acting from pure confidence, and that could be really clouding people from moving forward. It's like they're having to deal with the murky emotions of what's going on, and these are sensitive things, right? Cancer, ruled by the moon, deals with the sensitive topics, right? Of, what is emotionally going on? What is like our emotional bonds, our familial bonds with other people, the things that we want to keep safe or private, the things that are, our emotional security, right? Our emotional stability, our family, our home lives, our loved ones, like all of these things, right? So, people could feel more triggered around this time, like I said, instead of acting in confidence, right? Like old wounds or past wounds. Cancer has a connection to like the past and ancestry. So like there are old wounds coming up related to safety and security and family and emotions and all of that. Where have we felt more emotionally dependent on things from the past? Things could be coming up from the past because we've felt emotionally dependent on them and we haven't been able to fully move forward because we have these emotional connections to something of the past, or we haven't wanted to let something go. We've been clinging to something, and it's somehow been around this issue of dependency or emotional security in some way, shape, or form. Okay. Home, family, again, even just people that you're somewhat codependent on, or connections that you've had that you feel like you depend on in some way, So I think that this really suggests that like whatever new beginning this Aries partial solar eclipse is bringing in is somehow tied to emotional needs or emotional baggage and past conditioning that we are in the process of overcoming or sorting through in some way, right? So it's not just about taking action and, moving forward. It's about feeling safe enough to do so. But the beautiful thing with this is that because this Aries solar eclipse involves the moon, which rules Cancer, I think that this eclipse is a beautiful synergy and alignment, again, that word alignment, happening here that's helping us feel safe enough to do that. That it's like a an alignment or a syncing up is finally starting to happen within us, right? Where things are finally becoming more clear in some way, shape, or form. And our emotions and all of this past stuff and all of the dependency and emotional safety and whatever else, the emotional baggage from the past, whatever it is aligning with the will to move forward in some way, shape, or form. Because now that the moon is involved in this, obviously it's going to be involved, it's a solar eclipse, but because the moon rules Cancer and Mars rules Aries, they have what we call in astrology a mutual reception. Therefore, they are behind the scenes working together right now. Okay. So I like this. I like this for that reason. Okay. And so I think that this is a huge part of this Aries solar eclipse. Now, let me know if you're still with me down below. Comment down below, still with you. Okay, still with you. The next thing that I want to talk about, Mercury retrograding back in Aries or back in Pisces, like I said, where it will then conjunct Neptune, right? Making things potentially a little bit foggy, cloudy, less logical. Okay, so Mercury is going to retrograde back into Pisces and then immediately conjunct Neptune on the same day of this eclipse, not long after this eclipse. Okay, so this is a big deal because obviously we can experience some mental fog, some confusion, and some uncertainty, right? Again, it's like back to the drawing board, back to reimagining, right? And this is what I think is good about it because yes, although it can be somewhat of a lack of clarity, a lack of like things making sense logically, or, you know, it can be conversations that are really confusing or a breakdown of communication or misinformation or whatever can be an issue. I also think that our intuition is highlighted and heightened at this time. So whatever is coming up for this Aries eclipse could somewhat feel like a leap of faith or like us reconnecting with our faith, reconnecting with our intuition. Again, I know I've been saying this a lot lately, but learning to trust and whatever we're feeling about what's coming. So we may not have the clear sketch in our minds of what it's going to look like just yet, or the step-by-step process just yet, but we do have a feeling that it's coming, or a feeling of a first step maybe, right? A feeling of what needs to be done, or even just this faith that I don't know what it's going to look like just yet, but I know it's coming, right? It's right around the corner in some way, shape, or form. So this energy of Mercury and Neptune coming together is a really, really deeply spiritual energy, right? It's also illusory. So, you know, things may feel a little psychedelic, you know, but I think in a way, because it's a conjunction and because it's going to be the second conjunction as Mercury is retrograding back over this spot, there's something here that we're needing to learn with this. Okay, there's something here that we're needing to go over or that we're needing to align with in a Neptunian way of our spirituality, our higher faith, our hope, our optimism, our intuition, or even like a universal truth that really comes in, like a code or a download, or those are going to be very, very prevalent on this day. And because the eclipse is happening on this day, it's making it even more powerful. So expect major revelations around this eclipse, major insights. They may not be fully clear right away. It may be more of an intuitive feeling or a creative feeling, but it's coming, right? So the other part of this, like I kind of mentioned earlier, is this massive Pisces theme, right? This massive Pisces theme, this massive Pisces stellium, you know, because we have Mercury and Neptune, you know, Mercury's now in there conjunct Neptune. We're going to have Venus in there, the North Node in there, Saturn in there, right? So this kind of reinforces this strong theme of like something is ending, something is getting cleared out, something is getting released. You know, there's some kind of wrapping up process that has some kind of karmic vibe to it. It's like, you know, there's karmic debts being released. There's a karmic cleansing, a karmic clearing, a sense of like letting go, surrender, transcendence, dissolving of something. So yes, even though this is an Aries eclipse, you know, we have all this freaking Pisces energy still, right? So there's this strong Pisces presence that kind of feels like, well, to move forward, I have to release something first, right? In some way, shape, or form, like we have been, right? So more kind of in between energy, but I also think it's signaling that this is the start of the finally the start of the grand finale and of us moving forward, right? So, on top of that, the very next day of this solar eclipse, so the very next day after the solar eclipse, Neptune then moves into Aries for the first time. Okay, for the first time since the 1800s, Neptune has not been in the sign of Aries. Okay, it's been in Pisces since 2011. So we've known Neptune in Pisces since 2011. Now it's going to move into Aries. This is bringing in some kind of whole new chapter, whole new vision, whole new journey with it. Okay, whole new era of our lives with it. So, and just the fact that it enters Aries immediately after this eclipse really suggests that this eclipse, in a way, and a lot of these retrogrades, Venus retrograde, Mercury retrograde, has been almost like creating space or clearing space for this Neptune entrance into Aries, right? For something entirely new. So it's like, okay, look, like whatever you thought, that's gotta go, right? Whatever you thought this was is not what it was, and it's something totally new, and you're about to see it, right? So anyway, so Neptune is known for, dissolving things, dissolving old structures, it's known for illusions and past cycles. And so with it moving into Aries, this bold, fiery, confident sign that's very much about independence and the self, I think it's really clearing away outdated fears, self-doubt, kind of bringing up themes of where we felt a lack of direction, but it's asking us for a new vision and a new dream, and one that we are finally going to be taking action on, not just imagining with Neptune and Pisces, but one that we're actually going to be achieving and physically moving towards, okay? So also with Neptune and Aries, there's a shift, like I said, from passive dreaming and imaginings to actually taking inspired action. This eclipse isn't just an ending, right? It's basically a portal. Like I said, the Aries energy is kind of reigniting our fire, our conviction, and our sense of self, like a reminder, like a reclamation in a way. And the moment that Neptune crosses into Aries, you might feel like a veil has lifted. I think that this eclipse and Neptune moving into Aries is the start of a massive veil that's lifting. And that's going to help us start beginning to see our next chapter, right? I mean, Neptune's at 29 degrees Pisces, the very, very end of Pisces, which, is a very powerful degree. And so we kind of feel like there's something really new coming, but we can't see what it is yet because Neptune is like fogging the way with its fog. And we're like ready to finally move forward, but we're still dealing with stuff from the past, but we're ready to stop dealing with stuff from the past. And so it's coming, you guys, it's coming. I really think that when Neptune moves into Aries, it's going to be the start of a new vision forming. Yeah, maybe right on that day, you may not have some totally big shift. I mean, some people more than others may feel this very strongly. Obviously, if you have anything here and the first, 5 to 10 degrees of Aries, you're probably going to be feeling this very intensely, but I think that either way, in some way, shape, or form, a veil is lifting, and we will start noticing this as time moves on. But it starts this weekend, okay? And this is where I think, we'll start to see or be able to piece together our next chapter with kind of clarity and more purpose. Okay, so all in all, with this eclipse energy, it's not very much about charging forward in typical Aries fashion, but more so about pausing to reassess, okay, where we're going, right? Mercury retrograde, moving back into Pisces, right? And letting go of something from the past before stepping into the new chapter, Also, it's about us navigating the uncertainty and trusting in our intuition over logic, learning how to trust in ourselves, right? And embracing the idea that not everything will make sense right now, but it is starting to come together, right? So we're almost out of the woods. We're almost out of the craziness, okay? Cycles are ending and closing here in really big ways. This is a massive culmination point. So the big picture and kind of the breakdown of this eclipse cycle is these eclipses, like the cycle began in April 2023, right? And where we had the first solar eclipse in Aries, right? Then in October 2023, we had a solar eclipse in Libra. And this is where relationships and the theme of relationships versus independence really came up. Kind of letting go of karmic situations to do with relationships came up. And again, this could have been the lead up to these months or after these months. Like, it doesn't have to be right on these months that you notice something, but it's just anywhere around this time period, right? So then April 2024, we had another eclipse in Aries, major activation that was very much about independence and what we want versus what other people want, right? We also had another eclipse in October 2024, which was kind of like, you know, us also being somewhat tested between self versus other. And then now we have this final Aries solar eclipse. And this is kind of the climax, the grand finale, right? The last chance and the last lessons of us really learning to fully embody these Aries themes of independence and self and identity, like this moment of reclamation. But it's also something new. It's not necessarily reclaiming something old, it's reclaiming who we are, even if who we are now is different from who we were before, right? So if you've been hesitant lately about kind of claiming your independence or your leadership or your personal path, the path that you desire, that you want to go down, right? This eclipse is kind of that final push to do that, right? And since the skies are so kind of Piscean right now as well, since we have so much going on in Pisces, it might feel also in a way like a quiet surrender to, you know, your true self, to your sense of independence, right? To your personal path, rather than this big explosive breakthrough. Okay, so anyway, the final kind of recap on this is that we have a big transition happening, and it may feel unclear or even emotionally charged with Mars in Cancer and a solar eclipse in Aries with Mercury retrograde moving back into Pisces and conjuncting Neptune. We also have this Aries eclipse, you know, pushing us forward, but the Pisces energy is really asking us to reflect and review and surrender instead of trying to force things. And that's another big thing right now. Like, this isn't about forcing something. If you're forcing it, then it's probably not aligned with you. You probably need to pause, self-reflect, and learn to embrace some of that Piscean energy right now to balance out the strong Aries energy that you're feeling. Okay, so this is about learning to trust rather than trying to force things. Okay. Now, the other thing, like I said, looking back at the past Aries eclipses and seeing what was going on around those times and looking at this as kind of like that final push or that final shift or transition or test before really stepping fully into this new chapter, this new identity, or this new portal. And then also letting go of what's dissolving, because trying to hold on to it will only create more confusion. Okay, so let me know down below what your answers are to some of the questions I've asked throughout this, how you're feeling about this eclipse, and how are you feeling this energy personally right now. I would love to see if you've noticed any of these themes, if you've noticed this stuff really coming up. And then also, do you feel like something is kind of wrapping up right now? Do you feel like you're like on the edge of something? Do you feel like there's this massive portal that's about to happen? Do you feel these different things that I've talked about, right? Do you feel like something's wrapping up for you? Have you noticed these themes lately or over the last year and a half? How have they came up for you? I would love to hear your guys' feedback on this topic down below. And as always, if you watched until this time, I really, really appreciate you. Comment down below, badass alien, so that I know that you did. You get extra credit for doing that. Basically, thank you guys so much. Make sure to send this to your friends, your family. Thank you guys for hanging out with me. If you are brand new here and you got something for this, make sure that you subscribe so you don't miss my videos. I post pretty much weekly at this point now, once or twice a week at this point. So make sure that you're following along. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and comment down below. And let's go ahead and get into what is coming for your rising sign. I say rising sign because I'm reading the chart based on what the rising sign is. So when I'm talking about Aries, I'm talking about Aries Rising. When I'm talking about Taurus, I'm talking about Taurus Rising, placing those signs in the first house. So if you don't have that sign in your first house and you're listening to it, if you relate to something I say, it's not because it's actually astrologically happening that way for you. It's not true astrologically. You're just relating to something I'm saying, right? It's more interpretation based likely and just coincidental. Maybe you needed to hear it. I don't know. Obviously, the universe works in mysterious ways and you have self-will and can listen to whatever the hell sign you want. Honestly, you can do that. But I'm just saying that is how I read the chart. I put the sign on the rising sign and I read based on what house this is going to be in for you, based on your rising sign. So keep that in mind. I love you guys. Let's go ahead and get into what this means for your rising sign. Alrighty, Aries Rising, so welcome to this solar eclipse in your sign. I'm sure you guys are really going to be feeling this one. Solar eclipses, there's a powerful energy, but it is kind of this like in the background energy or like subtle energy that's kind of riding underneath a lot of different things. You may have noticed a lot of Aries energy anyway, happening over the last several weeks as we've had so much going on in your sign. And so the solar eclipse is really coming in to say, hey, this is a massive new chapter that is about to start. And it's almost been preparing you by what's been happening over the last year and a half, since around like April 2023. You have been feeling and facing and dealing with a lot of different things surrounding yourself, your identity, your body, your appearance, your sense of independence and vitality, and how you express yourself, and all of those different topics in your life, like who you are, learning to trust in yourself, learning to take the leap instead of hesitate, right? But over the last, maybe end of this cycle, the last year or so now, you've had to slow down a lot, especially with Mars going through Cancer and then turning retrograde and going back into Cancer. You've had to learn to slow down a lot. You've had a lot of different potential things coming up to do with your home, your family, your privacy, your personal life, the things that are very personal and sensitive to you, right? Dealing with the topics of family and emotion and dependency and protection and, things like this, your actual home and your emotional security and stability and the stability and the security you get from family or that they get from you, right? And so there's been a lot of potential like heated conflicts or emotions or triggers that have been really coming up here with these themes. And then also with all this Piscean energy in your 12th house of like releasing things from the past and going back and revisiting things from the past and dealing with this like reflection of what's going on in the past and going back and letting things go and learning to trust and learning to have faith and all of this stuff, and potentially really dive into some kind of spiritual path or journey as well, learning to trust in your intuition, diving into the subconscious, dreams, all of these types of things that could be or have been potentially coming up for you recently. There's just a lot, right? And this eclipse is coming in as like a massive portal or like transition point where it's getting you ready for Neptune that's about to enter your sign and start this massive new era and chapter to do with, again, your identity, your sense of self, who you are, and who you are, you may have learned or may be learning, is more important really than most other things. We awaken by knowing the truth about ourselves. We awaken by knowing who we really are. Who we really are is at the truth or the root of everything, I should say, right? It's really unpacking who we are on an authentic level, right? Authenticity is one of the highest vibrations that we can carry and that we can have. Trusting ourselves and knowing thyself is so, so crucial and so important to living a life that feels aligned, right? And these are a lot of the lessons that have been coming up for you and that I think that this Aries solar eclipse is really activating for you. This could feel like the start of a reclamation of who you are, what you want, and how you want to move forward. And a start of you, letting things go and, creating big endings in your life, a lot of big spiritual karmic endings that are happening here. And so, yeah, this is a very, very intense time and a massive portal that's kind of opening here with the solar eclipse. If you did not watch the beginning as an Aries rising, you are going to want to do that. Okay, it's a powerful first half of the video, and I think you're going to get a lot out of it as we talked a lot about you, okay? And this solar eclipse is happening in your sign, and it's just, you're going to relate a lot to the first half. So if you want a really in-depth horoscope, listen to the first half of this video, okay? Comment down below, badass Aries rising, if you watched your whole horoscope. I appreciate you. Thank you guys. Let me know how you guys are feeling this down below. I'd love to hear your feedback. And let's move on to Taurus rising. So for Taurus risings, this solar eclipse is happening in your 12th house. Boo. This is definitely making space, creating some kind of massive transition of focusing on yourself. And potentially seclusion, isolation, claiming your independence in a way that is maybe more private or behind the scenes or subconscious or, in some way going off on your own and doing something that feels alive and true for you, right? And so I think that, you've had a lot of mixed themes the last few months of potentially wanting to like get away and disappear or do your own thing or focus on yourself in some way, shape, or form, or focus on, your own sense of independence, or the subconscious conflicts that you've been having around certain issues of independence, or of, the things that you desire, the things that you want in your life, or whatever the case may be. But you haven't been able to do that for some reason or another, or there's been a lot of lessons coming up with that for some reason or another. And you've also been pulled to focus a lot on your network, your tribe, your community, your social life and social events in some way, and connect with other people through, the inspired, the inspirational or creative, or, kind of themes of, what am I trying to say here? Something that brings you together of a shared interest, or shared, whether it's a creative interest, or inspirational interest, an interest in helping other people, something that's very close to your heart of wanting to give or receive in some way. And so there's been kind of this push and pull between wanting to potentially do something on your own, or dealing with like subconscious challenges or setbacks, or, subconscious or internal conflicts in some way. But also wanting to go after the things that you imagine and dream about, and potentially, develop your social life, or grow or progress your social life, and the people that you know, or the environments that you're in, and the people that you surround yourself with. And so there's been like this kind of push and pull, and Venus, your ruling planet, has been retrograding in your 12th house, potentially awakening you to a lot of things that have maybe been hidden, that have been going on behind the scenes in some way, shape, or form, that have been tense or confrontational or edgy, or, from the past, that may have been a little bit challenging or difficult to deal with for one reason or another. And you've had to kind of, face these things and deal with them, right? But now Venus is exalted back in Pisces, like cooling off, and, helping you to kind of be re-inspired and tap back into your dreams and your vision for your life and your future and for humanity, and like all of that, right? And so these are the things I'm seeing for you as a Taurus rising for this eclipse. Let me know down below if this resonated with you. Also comment down below badass Taurus rising, because you are. And if you missed the first part of this video, I'm serious, like you are missing out on a lot. Okay, the first part of this video is fire, like fire, no pun intended. Go freaking watch it. Go back and watch it. You are not going to want to miss that. It is huge. It is a big deal. Okay, it's going to give you a lot more than I just gave you there. Okay, it's going to give you a lot more. So definitely go back and watch it. Thank you for watching, Taurus. Let me know how you're feeling this energy down below. We're going to move on to Gemini risings. For Gemini risings, this eclipse is happening in your 11th house of other people, your social life, social events, connections, alliances, and kind of like your inspirations and dreams in the world, and what you dream about in terms of how to make an impact in the lives of other people, or in humanity, or in this world in some way, and the people in your life of shared interest, hobbies, etc. Right? So this eclipse is really clearing the way, like clearing some things out here, ending some things, and bringing and kind of starting this portal that's happening here for Neptune to then move in to your 11th house, where you're really going to be focused on your worldly ambitions, your worldly inspirations, how you want to really impact other people, okay, your connections, alliances, friends, social life, etc. And you may start feeling very inspired to be a leader of sorts in some way, or pioneer a path, to help others in some way, or to step up to the plate to do something really big that makes an impact, right? Now, also, though, you've potentially been dealing with some conflicts or hangups that have been in the way of you doing that, right? Whether it's like things that you believe about yourself, or things that, certain perceptions that you've had about it, or certain relationships or friendships that aren't what they appeared to be, like frenemies, or, something along those lines. That you've been having to clear out and get rid of first, right? There's also a massive focus here on your legacy, your long-term goals, your reputation, your career, your path in life, what feels like your destiny, and how you see your future, right? So these are very futuristic, inspirational, like big, dreamy, how do I want to impact the world on a larger scale kind of transits that are happening for you right now as a Gemini rising. And you've potentially felt conflicted within yourself about how you want to move forward with Jupiter in your sign. It's like, you want to progress and expand, but you've had to deal with a lot of the internal stuff or a lot of the identity work around that and your perception of yourself around that. There's also been a lot of fears, conflicts, and challenges that you've had to face over the last few months with Mars and Cancer in your second house to do with your security, your emotional security, dependency, privacy issues, and emotional matters, and matters of protection and emotional security in some way, or finances and assets in some way. So, but this eclipse in general is a massive kind of ending and the start of something new, where you are really learning to let go of the old, learning to trust in yourself and trust in your intuition to help guide you. Because right now it could feel like your direction is a little bit foggy, or you're not sure how to move forward just yet, but your intuition is trying to tell you and lead the way, or some kind of higher power is trying to tell you and help you lead the way, right? And so Neptune is then going to enter Aries the day after this solar eclipse and start this massive new era and journey for you moving forward, to do with what you dream about, what you're inspired by, and again, how you want to make an impact in the world and in other people's lives, and how you want to lead the way in that, right? And so this is really big. Let me know down below, Gemini Risings, how you're feeling this energy, if any of that resonated. I'd love to know. Also comment down below, badass Gemini Rising, and because you are, obviously. Thank you guys so much for watching. And also, if you didn't watch the first half of this video, it's going to give you a lot more context, okay? A lot more context. Like, that is the most badass part of these videos, is that first half. So go back and watch that, because you're going to relate to it in so many other ways. It's going to give you a lot deeper context as to what's going on and where to look for these things in your life. Okay. So anyways, thank you, Gemini. Comment down below. Let me know how it related. And we are going to move on to Cancer Rising, darlings. So I don't know why I say that every time. Cancer Rising, darlings. I think you guys are the only ones I say that to for some reason. I could be wrong. I might say it with like Libra, but I know I always say it with Cancer Rising. So, okay, Cancer Risings. This eclipse for you is happening, ooh la la, in your 10th house, boo. So this is all about your reputation, your career. What is your destiny, your mission in life? Where are you going? What is the direction you're headed in? What do you want your future to look like? This is go-getter kind of energy. And you've been dealing with cycles, lessons, and spiritual lessons, and even potentially karmic and spiritual battles here and challenges here over the last year and a half, since around April 2023, when we first started having eclipses here in this area of your chart. So this is a cycle that is massively wrapping up the last year and a half of your life. Well, really almost 2 years of your life now, I should say. And, starting something completely new while ending something old. Okay, there's a massive new era that's about to form here, but also the slipping away and the dissolving of something old and the letting go of something old. And to do that, you may be letting go of a lot of old beliefs, a lot of old outlooks on the world, a lot of old ways of looking at things through an old filter, right? It's like the way that you once saw the world, or the beliefs that you once had about the world, are kind of slipping away. Or maybe you've been a bit confused about your purpose, or what you're really meant to do in life, right? And so you've had to kind of, deal with certain challenges, setbacks, face certain things that have felt somewhat confrontational in terms of these areas of life, for you to get clear on how you want to move forward. What do you want your professional life to be? Likely there's been some self-worth issues. There's been some issues around if you feel you're actually capable, strong enough, if you feel solid enough within yourself with Mars in your sign in your first house, right? Letting go of old insecurities and emotional wounds from the past that you had maybe been clinging to, that have really caused you to not see yourself for who you really are, that have caused you to have this kind of blurry vision of yourself, your body, your appearance, your health, your vitality, your personality, right? Your identity. So this has been a time of learning how to identify yourself and let go of old emotional triggers, old emotional ties that no longer connect with you. And then that's what's going to help you really spring forward to this new chapter of your life and this new era of your life, and really show you what you actually want. But to know what you really want, you have to be in sync internally first. And I think that's what a lot of this has been about for you. You have to actually be aligned within yourself, or else moving forward is going to always feel contradicting, confrontational, and confusing, right? Or contradicting, conflicting, and confusing, because there's so many different, opposites going on within you about what you want, what you don't want. So you may start doing something, but a part of you doesn't want it, so you don't follow through on it, and so it's like you've been trying to get clear on who you are, what you believe, what you want. That way you can actually move forward with the life that you want to have. Okay. And the things that you want to do and the desires that you have for your future, what you actually want your future to look like. This is almost like, crafting a new future for yourself. Like, it reminds me of like a dream board, right? But this is like literally like not just your dream, but like your future or your career, or what impact you want to have on the world in some way, right? And so it's like you are literally in the middle of like, you had this old dream board, right? And you're in the middle of like taking stuff off of it and being like, no, that doesn't align anymore. That doesn't align. You want to put new stuff on it, but you're like, do I really believe I can have that though? Do I really believe that I can do that? Do I really believe I'm capable of that? Right? And so it's like you've had to work through that before you continue to put that new stuff on it, right? And so that's kind of how I see this for you right now, Cancer Risings. Let me know if that fits, if that relates, if that's accurate down below. I'd love to hear your feedback as always. Comment down below, badass Cancer Rising, because you are. I appreciate you guys. And if you missed the first half of this video, boo, you definitely need to go back and watch this one, okay? It is fire. It is fire. It's going to add a whole new context to this reading, for one. And for two, you are going to see this eclipse playing out in a lot more areas if you go back and watch that first half of the video, okay? It is, it's going to relate a lot, I think, to a lot of you. So definitely go do that, alrighty? Okay, Cancer, let me know how you're relating with this down below. Let me know what's coming up for you. And we are going to move on to my lovely fellow Leo Risings. Hello, my fabulous, beautiful, badass Leo Risings. This eclipse for us is happening in our 9th house area, okay? So over the last, almost 2 years now, we've had these cycles of these eclipses happening in our 9th house arena of Aries, okay? Now, I don't know about you, okay? But I have felt the ups of this energy and I felt the downs of this energy. And I think that, in 2023, we first started having eclipses in this 9th house area. And I remember halfway through 2023, right around the eclipses started, I was feeling on fire. I was feeling all of the Aries vibes, right? I was feeling this sense of conviction, this ballsy, just badass energy. I'm going to go for it. I'm not even going to think about it. I'm going to make it happen. Freaking watch me. I'm going to take over the world. I'm a big deal. And I even had this whole masterclass series, which I still love to this day. Cause I started getting these downloads about all kinds of things. And through my experience, I always end up creating programs or classes or whatever, and take other people through that journey. And I made this masterclass series called Reclamation. And I talked about reclamation in the first half of this video. If you didn't watch it, you should go freaking watch it, because you're going to relate to it. It's going to be an extended horoscope for you as a Leo rising, because I just know it will. But I talked about in that masterclass these two codes of big deal energy and big vision energy, right? To be successful, to reclaim your personal power, and to really make your dreams come true and to have success. There are these two codes of big deal energy and big vision energy, right? Big deal energy basically is I'm a big deal, right? It's the self-belief part, right? And the next step of that is the big vision energy, having a big vision, literally having this huge vision that feels oh my God, it turns you on. It vibrates your soul when you think about it, it's holy shit, I can't not do that. I can't not make that happen, right? But you're not going to do it if you don't believe you're capable of it, right? So that's where the big deal energy comes in, right? Because you got to believe that you're a big deal. You got to believe that this can happen. And I feel these energies have been somewhat drained from us, okay? So I had the most beautiful, successful 6 months during that time frame. And then the beginning of 2024, it was I just dipped, right? And went through a whole kind of shutting process. I was depressed for a while. I beat myself up for an even longer while, felt ashamed and defeated and just lost. And I'm no longer feeling those ways anymore. I've been all right now for a while, but I've almost been scared of my ambition again, right? I've been scared of that level of confidence again, because the fall was so rough on me, it was so hard. It felt it just took every ounce out of me that I had left of anything, And so I'm it's almost I've in a way been subconsciously holding myself back and keeping myself just on this even keel because I'm too scared to like build up to that again. So anyway, my point in saying all of this is because I think it may relate to a lot of you, but also I think that this Aries energy, this is very much Aries in the ninth house, right? Go-getter energy. What do you believe? Do you believe you can have it? Do you believe you can't have it? Do you believe you're capable of it? What's your big vision? What's your mission? What feels purposeful, right? Like last year, I got like really into politics again. I hadn't been into it for a few years and I got really into it again. And I feel like that's very ninth housey too, but I also don't feel like it's like my purpose, And so eventually it starts draining me, right? Whatever our purpose is, it gives us energy. It fuels us, right? Like we could stay up all night and day, like when I have my like peak periods and I'm on and popping and thriving, I work like a mad person, not because I have to, because I want to. And because it like literally is like drinking a Red Bull constantly to continue working, right? Like it just gives me more and more energy the more I work. I get so excited. I'm so lit up. I feel like I could literally do this all my life. Like I wake up in the morning, like just so excited for the day and what's going to happen and what ideas I'm going to have and what I'm going to do and like all of this stuff. And it's like, I get that we can't live that way 24/7. There's going to be ebbs and flows, but I feel like we've lost a lot of that, in my opinion. I know I have. And I know from reading your guys' comments and stuff, I feel like many Leo risings have in some way or another. And I think, we're kind of torn between this like thinking seriously about our future and what we want, but also not knowing what we want and feeling like maybe what we want is in the past and like the best is in the past. And it's like, I felt that way so many times, but I've always proven that wrong eventually, right? And I'm sure you have too, right? So what we want is no longer in the past, and we have to be able to let that go. We, are also dealing with these like karmic and spiritual debts, these karmic and spiritual balances within our lives, like these checks and balances of energy, and potentially that could play out in finances or physical things or relationships or like whatever with all of this Piscean energy in our 8th house. But I think this is a massive transformational period, and the solar eclipse is coming in to say, hey, there's some more cords that need to be cut here, and this is some kind of massive portal that's opening as Neptune is about to enter Aries, and Mercury is almost giving us a message from Neptune right as that's happening to kind of remind us or give us some kind of intuitive insight into trusting something and remembering that bigger vision, remembering the lessons that we've learned over the last couple years, and being prepared and having faith, because we are going to move forward full speed ahead. April is coming, baby. It happens halfway through April. When Mars comes back into our sign, it is going to be full speed ahead. There's going to be a slight little power struggle with Mars opposite Pluto, but I believe it's going to be different than the first time. I believe this is like Mars coming back to say, all right, I'm ready. And I know this is a powerful situation. And I know this is, a chaotic situation or whatever, but I'm ready to deal with this shit. And now we're moving on, right? And we'll talk more about it in the April horoscope. I'm getting ahead of myself. I have a lot for you guys in the April horoscope, so be on the lookout for that. But that is what I'm seeing for this Aries solar eclipse, Leo. And again, if you missed the beginning, go back and watch that. It is from my perspective as a Leo rising, and I brought up a lot of examples from myself that I think a lot of you guys will relate to. I think you're really going to enjoy the first half of that video, so go back and watch it. Alrighty, comment down below, badass Leo risings, because you are. I appreciate you guys. I know I have a lot of you here, so thank you guys so much. Let me know how you're feeling this eclipse down below, and we're going to move on to Virgo risings. Okay, so my lovely Virgo risings, this eclipse for you is in your 8th house arena, okay? So this is you really feeling antsy to do something on your own, right? To take care of something, to lead the way, to, be the leader in your life, whether financially or within certain relationships or within certain, checks and balances or like karmic, situations or like whatever the case may be. This is like you feeling very antsy and motivated to move forward financially in your life and with, your assets, your energy, your belongings, like in some way, shape, or form. It's like you wanting to do your own thing, right? But we have all this Pisces energy in the 7th house, right? So it's like, well, there's going to be a little bit more in between left, a little bit more of an in-between period left before you can do that. But don't worry, it is coming, right? There's a little bit more that you need to learn about trust or faith or relations with other people or, accepting, things or receiving things or whatever the case may be, right? There's a little bit more that needs to be learned here in terms of your relationships and your social life and, all of that before you can hit the ground running, right? There's something that is still kind of like, hey, I need to reflect on this, or I need to review this, or let this go, or change this around, or rearrange this before I can move forward, or at least there's something left to be learned, okay? And that is really what I'm seeing for you guys more than anything, Virgo risings. I think that you are potentially maybe feeling antsy. You're like, I'm ready to move forward. I'm ready to move on. I got this. It's all good. I've, improved myself with that South Node in your sign, that South Node lunar eclipse we had a couple weeks ago. I've improved myself. I've gotten clear within myself. Now it's time for me to charge ahead. I'm ready to move on. But you also know that maybe there are some plans or some things or something hanging there that needs to be taken care of first, right? There's some other things that you got to take care of first before you go moving ahead. And I think that you intuitively know this and you feel this in some way, and it likely has to do with relationships or social situations in your life, potentially even matters of health. And for some of you with Pluto in that 6th house arena, somewhat sextiling this eclipse and all of that. And so I just think that there's something here that, again, you're still letting go of, reflecting on, but this eclipse is making the way for you to move forward. So while you're doing all this, there are steps being laid out, right? It's like, I know that you want to go this way, but you still have to focus over here. But while you're focusing over here, the steps are also being laid out in front of you for when you are ready to move forward, right? So that is what I'm seeing for you, Virgo risings. Comment down below, badass Virgo rising, if you watched until this point, because you are. Also, if you missed the beginning of the video, you are missing out on a lot, okay? That first half of the video is very, very powerful, very potent, very fiery, and you're going to want to hear it. So definitely go back and watch that. Let me know how this resonated down below, Virgo risings. I'd love to hear your feedback, and leaving a comment really helps me out a lot. And we are going to move on to Libra risings. So for Libra risings, this solar eclipse for you is happening in your 7th house, really kind of ending this massive cycle that's been going on since about like spring to summer 2023, right? When we started having eclipses in Aries, right? Your 7th house of relationships. You have had to have a lot of lessons and potentially karmic situations going on in terms of independence in relationships, which can be a very, it can sound almost like a paradox. Like, how are you with somebody, but you also are independent, right? And so it's like you're really learning that whole metaphor of like 2 half people don't make a whole person, right? Over the last couple years, you're really learning that like, hey, I need to be my own individual person, and they need to be their own individual person with their own individual lives, and we really just should be like adding to each other's lives and making it better, right? And so there's just a lot of lessons you've likely had to learn around conflict in relationships, independence in relationships, freedom in relationships, individuality in relationships, bravery in relationships, speaking up in relationships. And a lot of these things are coming back around these last few months to really make sure that you've got the lessons down, honey. And I'm sure it's been frustrating and agitating if you are in a relationship or a marriage or have a lot of close connections in your life. You could have had a lot of confrontation or conflict or controversy going on here. There could have been a lot of truth exposed about certain people in your life, or there just could be tense, like a little bit more argumentative or a little bit more edgy, going on with your social life lately. And this has somehow been really also bringing in what you want for your future, your long-term goals, the legacy you want to leave behind, what you want to be known as, your reputation, your what do you actually want out of life, the impact that you want to have in the world. With Mars moving through Cancer in your 10th house, ruling this eclipse, and a lot of these Aries transits, there's been it's been very emotionally triggering, and it's also brought up a lot of topics surrounding what you were potentially emotionally dependent on, or what, other people were emotionally dependent on in terms of, career, work, future, or your vision of what you guys wanted together, or the dream, goal, or legacy of what you guys wanted together. In some way, it's tying that in, right? And it's tying in just this emotional dependency and this emotional security and all of that, right? And so, anyway, there's also a massive focus on you really trying to get clear on your work life and your day-to-day routines and your health as well, with all this Piscean energy, right? Dealing with like a lot of spiritual karmic stuff there, facing a lot of stuff there, letting things go. Now that Venus is moving back into your sixth, and then Mercury is going to move back into your sixth, and across Neptune, this is a very psychedelic, intuitive, and dreamy time that can bring a lot of intuitive insight, but not a lot of logical clarity, right? So this can help you get back to a sense of finding the beauty and the pleasure and the creativity or the inspiration within your job or within your work life or within your routines or within self-care, things like that could really be, or within health in some way, right? Things like that could really be coming up too. So anyways, the solar eclipse is really clearing the way for Neptune to move in the very next day. And once Neptune moves into your seventh, this is a massive new era starting here for you as a Libra rising, okay? This is really going to be about you really finding that sense of belief, faith, and what you truly envision for yourself and taking action on it in your relationships, okay? I did talked a lot more about this in the yearly horoscope. So if you want to go deeper into what Neptune and Aries means for you, definitely go check out my 2025 horoscopes for the year ahead and watch your rising sign for that. So thank you, Libra risings. Comment badass Libra rising down below because you are boo. I appreciate you. Thank you for watching this. Let me know how this solar eclipse is affecting you guys. I'd really love to hear about it. And yeah, if you missed the beginning, you are missing out on a lot, okay? Like this, the first half of this video is fire. It is potent, it is powerful, it is empowering. So if you want a lot more context on what is going on right now, you need to go watch that first half of the video, okay, boo? Alrighty, so we are gonna move on to Scorpio risings. Alrighty, Scorpio risings. This eclipse for you is happening in your sixth house of your work, health, and your day-to-day routines. This is taking charge in this life, right? Like Aries is about taking charge in this life, but also dealing with the conflicts and challenges that come with this area of life, right? So there's likely been a lot of upheaval, challenges, conflicts, or tense situations you've potentially been dealing with at work or with health or with your day-to-day routines in some way, shape, or form. A lot of these things could be emotional or triggers or somehow dealing with views on things or beliefs or rules or ethics or morals or whatever the case, with Mars being in your ninth house, or even traveling, educational, conflicts, etc. But either way, there's been a lot of energy happening here over the last several weeks that you've had to face in one way or another. Maybe there's been some, coworkers that have been exposed and you're like, holy crap, they are not who I thought they were. Or, you've had some tense relationships at work or with a boss or a manager, or maybe there's been some tense situations regarding your health, or, trying to get active again, but having challenges or hangups or whatever the case may be, right? So the solar eclipse is coming in to say, hey, we're not quite moving forward just yet, but we are about to be. So get ready, right? This could be some kind of internal shift that happens, or some kind of internal shift in your focus, etc. that happens. And also, there's still a kind of going back and reflecting and reviewing process that's happening on, like, what do you really want? Have a lot of these conflicts or challenges or issues that you've been dealing with potentially brought up a bigger question of, like, what do you really desire here? What do you really find pleasure in? What do you really like? What do you really love? What's your true passion? Is this job, or is this routine, or is this health path that I'm on, or whatever the case may be, does it really vibrate my soul? Does it really turn me on? Does it bring me pleasure? Does it express my sense of creativity and my soul desires and what I want out of life? Is it somehow conflicting with my love life, or bringing a love life situation into it in some way, right? With it being the fifth house, or is it somehow, bringing in your children with it if you have children, or some kind of issue there or hang up there, either way, there's a lot of different things kind of being involved in terms of this solar eclipse, but the solar eclipse is kind of a portal, a transition period of reminding you who you are, what you desire, what you're capable of, right? Your strength, your courage, your conviction, your bravery, okay, and your own sense of leadership and being able to lead yourself. Okay. But you still may be trying to get clear on what you actually want or what you actually love or what you actually like and how to really express that and how to really move forward once you're really getting clear on that. And this time around this eclipse with Mercury joining Neptune in your fifth house, this can be a very dreamy time where logic goes out the window and it's time to really trust your intuition. Your intuition is really going to help you and guide you with this one around this time. Okay. So that is what I'm seeing for you guys, Scorpio risings. Let me know down below if that resonated and what you are noticing for this eclipse, and comment down below badass Scorpio rising, because you are, boo. And if you missed the first part of this video, go back and watch. It's going to get a lot deeper and add a lot more context that I really think that you guys are going to relate to. It's going to talk about a lot more going on with this eclipse that you definitely want to know. So go back and watch the first half of this video, and also watch out for the monthly horoscopes for April coming out not long after this video as well. Okay, so alrighty, moving on to Sagittarius risings. For Sag risings, this eclipse for you is happening in your fifth house of children, pleasure, where you have fun, where you find entertainment, where you have passion, hobbies, a sense of purpose by the things that you like or love or find enjoyment in some way, shape, or form. Okay, and so here there has been potentially a lot going on in this area of life the last several weeks, as we've had a lot of retrogrades here, and now we're having the last partial solar eclipse here in Aries that's really ending a cycle that started around like mid 2023. Okay, and so there's been a lot of lessons that you've learned with this area of life, right? Going after the things that you want and actually taking action on the things that you want, and maybe expressing yourself, and expressing the things that you want instead of trying to keep the peace with everything else, or, trying to, keep some kind of, status quo going with maybe coworkers or colleagues or the world or what the world thinks or whatever. It's like, actually, no, just go after what you want. Go after the things that bring you freedom and passion and that are fun to you, and take action on those things, right? And so you've really had to learn how to kind of put individuality first in a lot of ways, instead of focusing so much on peace and collaboration with everybody else, and look more at your own individual desires, your own individual wants, your own individual, needs. And so that's been a huge lesson for you for the past almost couple years now. And so with this solar eclipse coming in, it's kind of reigniting those lessons and themes for one last time, and really kind of sparking that passion for you again, and the things that you desire again in a very primal and instinctive way, really also bringing in Mars and Cancer in the eighth house, this emotional energy. And you haven't been able to experience this energy in a normal way because Mars has been in Cancer. You haven't really been able to experience that like fiery, fun, loving passion energy, right? Because Mars has been in Cancer, and Mars rules Aries. And so it's kind of played out through this like more serious emotional security, emotional dependence kind of manner, vibe, or way, right? And so there's been kind of like, okay, but like, what are your emotional attachments? What are you emotionally dependent on, and the challenges going on with that? And maybe that's been more of your focus. Maybe it's had to do with children or resources around children, or maybe it's had to do with, finances and how that impacts your ability to do what you love and have fun and all of that, in some way, shape, or form. Or maybe there's been financial conflicts or conflicts around relationships, or emotional situations, and or potentially even family, that have potentially put a damper on you really embracing your individuality and inner child. And so the solar eclipse is coming in to remind you of that childlike, passionate energy, and say that, hey, you're almost out of the woods. We are about to spring forward in a very big way very, very soon. So get ready, right? That is what this eclipse is saying. Yes, there are some things you need to review first going on with your home, family, private life, personal life, some things that may need to be cut off or healed or integrated or let go of, or some more space that you may need to clear in terms of what you want for your home, family, personal life, private life, etc., or if things have felt confusing there in some way. But this is all making space for Neptune to enter Aries this Sunday, the very next day after this eclipse on March 30th. right? Where a whole new era is going to start forming here. We're an era of you really envisioning and dreaming about what you want and what you're passionate about and what you like, and learning to take inspired action on those things. Okay, so that is what I'm really seeing for you guys, Sagittarius Rising. Let me know down below if that resonated and what you are noticing coming up around this Aries solar eclipse. Also, comment down below badass Sag Rising, because you are. I appreciate you. If you missed the first part of this video, boo, you are missing out on a lot as a fellow fire sign. Trust me, you're going to want to watch it. It's fiery, it's potent, it's empowering. It's definitely probably what you need to hear right now. So I would definitely go back and watch that if you missed out. And we're going to move on to Capricorn Rising. So for Capricorn Risings, this solar eclipse is happening in your 4th house of your home, your family, your personal life, your private life. You've probably had a lot coming up here over the last several weeks, potentially a lot of frustrations, conflicts, setbacks, confusion, potentially a lot of heated conversations or heated tensions arising with family members or relationships within your home or living situation, roommates, etc. There's been a lot of tense situations arising in this area, which is obviously not a fun place to have those situations. Also, they've likely been involving your relationships as well, as I've been talking about with you guys for a while now. Mars in your 7th house has been bringing up a lot of emotional triggers and a lot of tense emotional situations and conflicts to do with the relationships in your life, other people in your life, and, emotional triggers, anything to do with emotional dependence, the past, and anything that like just really sensitive topics that can be very hard to navigate, right? And so this solar eclipse, though, is coming in to say, hey, there is a massive grand finale and ending happening here. We are closing out something that likely started back in mid-2023 when we first started having eclipses in the sign of Aries around April 2023, right? And so we're finally closing out this chapter that started, but also starting something new and making way for something brand new as Neptune's about to enter Aries, right? And so this is like you are closing out some kind of chapter where you've learned a lot of lessons here with home and family around independence, freedom, taking action, taking the lead, pioneering a new path, dealing with conflict and dealing with challenge and all of that. And so the solar eclipse is really bringing up that fiery leadership-like energy again and asking you to embrace it. Maybe not to move full speed ahead right now, because there's still a lot of reflecting going on with Mercury retrograde moving back into Pisces basically the same day, and Neptune entering Aries later, basically in the middle of the night on Sunday, right? And so there's still like, Mercury and Neptune are about to trade places. So it's like you're getting a little bit of a message or a little bit of an intuitive insight. It could come through your dreams, or it could come from something in your environment, or something that you hear, or a conversation, or something that you think about, that is kind of planting some kind of seed here, as Neptune is then moving into your 4th house and going to basically start a massive new era on your home, family, private, and personal life, and what you really truly want and envision in this area, where you eventually start to take inspired action in this area. Okay, and so that is what I'm seeing for you guys, Capricorn Risings. Let me know down below if that resonated. Comment down below badass Capricorn Rising, because you are. I appreciate you guys. If you missed the first half of this video, go back and watch that. Okay, it is very, very important. You don't want to miss it. You're gonna relate to a lot of it, so just go do it. Okay, it's gonna give you it's gonna tell you all the tea that you need to know right now about what is happening, and you're gonna feel like even more prepared. Okay, even more prepared for all of this. So, alrighty, moving on to Aquarius Risings. Aquarius Risings, this solar eclipse in Aries is happening in your 3rd house, a little bit of a weird house, but nonetheless, you've been going through some kind of spiritual and karmic lessons in this area of your life since 2023. Almost 2 years now, you've been learning something to do with your 3rd house, your environment, your community, but also taking action, speaking up, being more opinionated, being more expressive, and just doing it rather than holding back so much or trying to weigh out everything going on in the world. This has been a transit that I think has probably taught you a lot more about being in the here and now, focusing on what's present, focusing on what's going on around you, what's going on in your life, rather than what's going on in everybody else's lives, or what's going on around the world, or what's going on in, across the world, rather than what's going on right in front of you, right? With the 3rd and 9th house activations here. And so there's been a lot where maybe you've been pulled to learn something new, or pulled to kind of develop new skills or have tougher conversations or deal with more conflict and learn how to deal with more conflict. Or maybe you've taken a kickboxing class or karate or something, like maybe you've amped up your skills in some way or gotten more involved in your community or your town or, your surroundings in some way, shape, or form, right? So the solar eclipse is coming in here to kind of activate that energy in that area of life again for the final time. And it's almost like a review of what you've learned the last couple years, but also this portal of moving forward in this massive new era beginning with Neptune then entering the sign of Aries the very next day after this eclipse on March 30th, right? Where you are going to be feeling a lot more inspired to take action around your dreams and ideals in your life, especially in the here and now, and especially in your surroundings, community, or maybe even, accomplishing some short travels and trips in some way, shape, or form. For some of you guys could have been dealing with some rocky, confrontational, tense topics with siblings or extended family members or neighbors in some way with this energy over the last several weeks. But either way, there's a massive kind of closing out period happening and a new beginning happening here that is really coming in for you. And also a lot of Piscean energy still in your second house, focusing on your finances, your assets, what you need, and your resources and, your actual innate talents, what you have to offer, what you own, right? And so there's been a lot of reflecting that's going to start happening in this period, and a lot of cleaning out that's going to start happening in this period as Venus and Mercury are about to retrograde back into Pisces around this time. So let me know about down below, Aquarius Risings, how that is resonating with you guys, what you guys are noticing come up for this time. I'd really love to hear your feedback, especially if that third house, because that third house can be so many different things. It can be very interesting and sometimes hard to pinpoint when you're going through major third house transits sometimes. So let me know down below how you're seeing it. Comment down below, badass Aquarius Risings. I appreciate you guys. If you missed the first half, okay, you need to go back and watch it. Just be honest with yourself and admit to yourself right now that you skipped it, and you need to go back and watch it, okay? Because it's going to give you a lot more, okay? A lot more that you really need to know right now about what's happening. And yeah, I think it's going to help you see these energies in a lot more other areas of your life. So definitely go back and do that. And we are going to move on to Pisces risings. Last but not least, my lovely Pisces risings. This Aries eclipse is happening in your second house of your finances, resources, income, your values, and your talents, and the things that you own, the things that you have to offer, right? That's what this area of life is really about for you. And there's a massive cycle closing here that started in 2023. It's been almost 2 years now since we've been having eclipses in Aries. And so there's a massive cycle that's finally closing out here of lessons you've been learning in the last couple of years to do with taking action on your own individual wants and needs, right? Your own individual resources, and focusing on the things that you want and being able to deal with potentially hard situations or conflicts, right? Being able to look out for yourself, lessons around survival and resourcefulness and, instincts and, things like this. And so this solar eclipse is really coming in to say, okay, hey, we are closing this chapter from the last couple of years, but here is one last lesson, one last reminder of this energy for you to move forward with. And we are also clearing the way for a massive new era here to start as well, with Neptune being about to enter Aries the very next day after this eclipse on March 30th, okay? So there's something brand new here starting and something old closing out, and you could really be feeling that. This could feel somewhat like a portal, like you're leaving one world and entering another one, while you're also doing a lot of internal work, trying to figure out who you are, what you want, where you're going in your life. There's been a lot of touchy-feely, potentially like tense emotional situations that you've been having to deal with Mars and Cancer in your fifth house, likely regarding love, children, dating, romance, your sexuality, love life, where you find pleasure, fun, etc. And so there's likely a lot of things that you've had to potentially address from the past, dependency issues, emotionally depending on something, being emotionally attached to certain things, holding on to certain things from the past, and also how that deals with you and how you trust yourself and have faith in yourself with all of these this whole Pisces stellium we're about to have. Venus is about to retrograde back into your sign. Mercury is about to retrograde back into your sign on the day of this solar eclipse in conjunct Neptune, likely giving you some massive inspiration or intuitive insight into something. There's just so much happening here. If you are a Pisces rising, you are getting an identity upgrade of a lifetime right now, boo. Like, you may not be the same after these transits in the next few months, okay? And I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's a beautiful thing. I think that you are transcending like someone that you used to be, or like an old lifetime or an old you or something like that, and you are moving on to something new, and that permission to move forward is coming, right? It is really coming. And not that you need permission, I didn't really mean it like that, but I think that that open doorway to move forward finally is coming. And I think the confusion is going to start to settle after this time period. I think things are going to become more clear. The veil will start being lifted, and it's like you're recreating who you are from the inside out in a really beautiful spiritual way. And so let me know down below, Pisces Risings, if that resonates with you and what you are noticing coming up around this time. I'd really love to hear your feedback as Pisces Risings, because you guys got a lot going on. Okay, boo? Watch out for the April horoscopes. They're coming soon. You're not going to want to miss those. And comment down below, badass Pisces Rising, because you are, okay? And if you missed the first half of this video, you are missing out on a lot. It's going to give you a lot more, okay? It's going to give you a lot more that I think you're going to relate to a lot. So definitely go back and watch that. I've seen your guys' comments, okay? I know some about what's going on with you guys. So go back and watch that first part of the video. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really, really appreciate you. And I will see you guys in the April horoscopes video.